静けさや岩にしみ入るセミの声。That was the haiku written by Matsuo Basho. He wrote this after making the pilgrimage to the main theme and location of our video today, Yamadera. Yamadera and this series of temples, officially known as the Hoshuzan Rishakuji. It has a very interesting history that goes all the way back to the Heian Jidai, or the Heian period. At that time, Buddhism was spreading amongst the mainland. This would have been the early dynasties of China. And there was a sect called Tendai. It was around the time of 804 AD that a Japanese monk by the name of Saicho traveled to China to study this Tiantai or Tendai way of Buddhism. As he learned, understood, and read the scriptures, he returned to Japan to establish the Japanese Tendai schools and teaching. It was at that point that he founded the Enryakuji, which was on Mount Hiei. This was built in 788, but it was 806 that it had secured the imperial recognition. Not only that, but he instituted a unique Mahayana-based ordination system. This was based off the Bodhisattva vows. There were 3 successors to him: Annen, Enjin, and Ennin. Amongst those successors was Ennin, the important figure that would go on to establish the Yamadera temple and instill this kind of Tendai philosophy within it. Tendai was significant. It became the mother school of many major Japanese traditions: Zen, Pure Land, and Nichiren. They all began within the framework of Tendai. Over time, Tendai's political power declined, and unfortunately, the Enryakuji was destroyed in 1571. But the comprehensive and syncretic teachings remain to this day. Now when we look at Yamadera, which literally means mountain temple, its presence atop the sheer cliffs makes it the physical embodiment of spiritual pursuit. In order to reach the various temples in the top, you must climb 1,015 steps. And for centuries, it has served as a center for mountain asceticism, or Shugendo, where practitioners retreat into nature to purify themselves and to try to attain enlightenment. As for the locals, it isn't just a place for exercise. It's a modern-day pilgrimage, often tied to prayer for good health, safe childbirth, exam success, and personal rebirth. I can attest to this, as Sendai is very close to Yamadera, and it is a very popular day trip. Once you are there and committed to this pilgrimage, there's an idea that each step purifies one's earthly desires. Now, it's very interesting to talk about the early history, but Yamadera has stood there, not just from the Heian period, but through the medieval and the Edo period as well. So in the Heian period, it had a main hall with an eternal flame. This very eternal flame exists to this day, and it is burned for over 1,200 years. Unfortunately, during this medieval time, it was burned down, as is the case with many temples and structures throughout Japan, over and over again during civil wars or conflicts. It was in 1356 that the feudal lord Shiba Kaneyori, who was the ruler of Yamagata Castle, which we will talk about him in detail at some point when we do our video on Yamagata. But he rebuilt the main hall, and in 1521, the temple burned down again. And once again, it was restored by the powerful warlords of that region, including another interesting and famous name in Japanese history, Mogami Yoshiaki. Now, it was the Edo period where Yamadera started to gain a renewed cultural interest throughout the entire nation. And it was 1689 when this poem that I read at the beginning of this video was written. Now, you may be asking yourself, why was it built? Why particularly in the Tohoku region, one that is kind of seen as the countryside of the nation, and at that time would have been seen as the far-off territory or the unknown, as power was centralized within the Kansai region, and the kingdom would have been around Kyoto or Nara at the time. Well, it was for that very reason. It was to expand influence and to expand cultural inheritance to far-flung areas. Now, this particular one, matching its Tendai roots, was a ground to train spiritually and be harmonious with nature. It was state-sponsored under imperial and aristocratic patronage, reinforcing the religious and political relationship of the time. Those of you that know Japanese history know that religion played a big role in politics and influence. Those of you interested today, there are highlights and areas that I think are key to try to visit. At some point, you may also find yourself passing the Nyoomon Gate. This is another beautiful structure, and it was actually crafted in 1848. This would have been during the Meiji period. It is crafted entirely with wood and just a copper-plated roof. It also houses fierce Nyo guardian statues, believed to be the work of a disciple of Unke. Now, the cliff-built sanctuaries are some of the most fascinating and incredible. They are directly built on the cliff faces. Now, these are the Godaido and the Okunoin. These were constructed in the Kakezukuri style, which is a very interesting technique akin to Kyoto's famed Kiyomizu-dera, where deep set pillars support the veranda and the building over vertical rock. The second place that I think is very interesting and important to visit is the Konpon Chudo, which is the main hall. This actually replaced the original Heian structure. We can only imagine what the structure of that Heian period would have looked like. About 60% of its beams are made with beechwood, making it Japan's oldest extant beechwood structure. Inside, it enshrines a 1,000-year-old eternal flame. Now, the style of it is interesting. It's a specific style called Irimoya Zukuri, and this is a hip and gable roof. Overall, it's an architectural marvel because of its use of beechwood, which is very rare in Japanese temple construction, but also its seamless blend into nature. Something fascinating is, along the way, there are many different spiritual caves. These are ones for sitting and meditating. Now, the final question we may be wondering and asking ourselves is, what cultural significance does it have now? Well, as it's an enduring and iconic temple within the Tohoku region, it is immortalized by poetry known nationwide. And it is a reminder that the Tohoku region has always mattered spiritually and has always mattered culturally. After the 2011 Great Earthquake, there were many, many visitors who came to Yamadera to pray and reflect. This also made it a symbol of healing and continuity at the time. And so not only is it important to locals, not only is it used as a daily pilgrimage, not only is it seen as symbolic of the Tohoku region, but it has become a must-see attraction for many visitors from other countries and other cities within Japan. It draws in pilgrims, poets, tourists, and hikers. And there are dozens of small businesses around it where you can find delicious ice cream or soba. In fact, during my trip, I went to a local soba shop and I was able to find this. In my opinion, Yamadera has a certain sacredness, and most of the people that you see making the pilgrimage there are locals. You could say that Yamadera isn't just a temple, but it's a reflection of how the people of Tohoku live out their values: humility, endurance, reverence for nature, and quiet strength. I'd like to thank everybody for watching today. 皆さん、見てくれてありがとうございました。じゃあね。